afternoon, and welcome to my very first live YouTube broadcast. My name's Sascha Cooper, and I'm a creative entrepreneur from Brighton. My job is to make everybody feel good from the inside and out, no matter what method is used. So today's video is going to be focusing on a little bit of an introduction about myself and also what being a creative entrepreneur entails. So if you guys get a little bit of a chance, as you start to come in, make yourselves known, and I'm also going to start sharing this out on my timeline as well, just to start encouraging people to come into the broadcast. Plus, what I'm also going to be asking you to do, if you could also take the time to share this out as well, because if the content resonates with you and if you want to basically make sure that people are resonating with this, then please encourage people to support the broadcast, okay? And it's not like, it's a weird thing all this actually, because it's not like Facebook in the sense that you get to see all the likes and everything start to come in. But obviously, as you come in, if you can take the time to like the broadcast as well, that would be much appreciated indeed. Whoops, okay, it looks like it decided. Right, now this is interesting because obviously this is the first time I've gone live. If you obviously start to share out on Twitter, etc., it freezes the broadcast, so that's quite interesting. So, what is a creative entrepreneur about? Well, to put it simply, being a creative entrepreneur is focusing very closely on working with your strengths as a creative in whatever areas you have in your life, okay? So, when you start going down this path, it can have any sort of implications that you take. Now, it doesn't matter whether the path that you've chosen is not immediately the one that you choose in the first place. The trick is to start making it work for you. So, in this instance, what's happened with me is that, in my case, I started off as an actress, still am an actress as well. I'm also a dancer and choreographer. I'm one of the founders and a co-owner, as well as a theatre director for a local theatre company that Daniel and Ahern and I set up called Crimson Horse Theatre. And I'm also a psychic medium and reader. I'm also a media hair and makeup artist, a nail technician, and a trainee holistic life coach. But really and truly, I didn't set out to do absolutely everything at once, I'll be very honest with you. My path initially set off with just purely wanting to be an actress. That's all it was to start with, okay? So, to start off the journey, I guess it started when I was about 2 or 3 years old. I saw The Wizard of Oz for the first time ever. And I think I must have been about 6 years old or so when I actually then saw it in the theatre. Now, you know what it's like when you see something on film and you think that's because you're singing along with it. You think it's the same thing everywhere, don't you? Well, what no one told me was that you couldn't sing along with everybody in the theatre because their job was to do it on stage. So, yours truly, at the age of 6, decided to basically sing at the top of her voice to a full theatre from the dress circle, singing along to the songs of The Wizard of Oz. And I thought it was so funny at the time. I mean, I loved it, but obviously my parents weren't so pleased, but it is a weird one in that instance, because from there, it was when the light switched on. That was when I thought, right, okay, this is it. I want to be up there with them. Years down the line, after I'd gained a lot of qualifications in the Lambda examinations, GCSEs, Guildhall examinations, dance exams, singing exams, what happened was then I went to university, got a BA Honours in Drama Studies and English Literature, and then moved up to London in 2003 when I'd finished graduating to continue my training to be a professional actress. Now, around about that time, when I was 18, I found that there was a lot of different strange things happening, in the sense that I found I was being drawn to writing, and I was being drawn to, um, well, that I started experiencing some strange things from the spirit world and all sorts of things. But as it turned out, at 19, when I took a year out before going to uni, I found from my mother, due to an incident that took place at a fete, that actually we had something called the gift, and that gift was being passed down from generation to generation in terms of Romany Gypsy. Now, those of you who don't know what Romany Gypsy is, they are and still are today tribes that basically travel all over the world in a very usually in caravans or in a tribe, and they live the most basic of lives. But what they do is they connect with spirit, and they share messages, and they share healing. But they have, strangely enough, although they have in some cultures what appears to be a heathen lifestyle, it's actually got the basis of Christianity. But I'll talk about that sort of thing another time. Anyway, what then happened? We got a bit of an interesting journey with that. So I was trying to find myself. I wasn't sure which path I was following at the time. But in the meantime, focus on the acting. Focus on the acting training, pure and simple. And, well, all I can say is, it's a very, very strange one. Because what you then do is you start focusing on the reality. And I'm not going to lie, the reality is, when you're deciding to go down the road of the creative artist, what you're then going to find is that you're on your own a lot of the time. You don't have mummy and daddy holding your hand. You don't have your training school holding your hand. You can't rely on an agent. The only person you have to rely on is yourself. And, well, I guess what happened then, I mean, obviously I went to auditions, I did all sorts of things to stay sane, to stay alive, so to speak. I even worked in call centres to keep the money coming in, because that's the way that they sell it, so that it's flexible around auditions and rehearsals and all sorts. So, fast forward a few years, and I'm starting to expand into further things with belly dance, with flamenco, with Bollywood, all sorts of really exotic sort of dances to complement things. And I moved down to Brighton 10 years ago, and I've been living in here ever since. Not in this room, but in Brighton. And what happened then was, really and truly, all I can say is a growing process. It took moving down to Brighton to get out of an abusive relationship. It also took moving down to Brighton to take a risk, take a leap of faith, and start my own theatre company, do a bit more on the dancing, expand into teaching drama, kids at the time. But then I moved into teaching hen parties, dance and choreography, which I love because that initially helps women to feel empowered, okay? It also took moving down to Brighton to really and truly discover that the readings could work as well. So that was something that I then took seriously. I was still working in call centres, etc., but I was tiptoeing in the water, so to speak. And the lovely thing about Brighton, unlike London, apologies if there's anybody from London watching this video, but what was interesting was the fact that to compare London and Brighton, London is very fast, now paced. Brighton, You've still got the whole aspect of London by the sea, but you can develop things in your own time down here. You can be a creative and you can put on all sorts of different things. Trouble is, unlike London, which is huge and you've got a dispersing sort of thing going on, Brighton, it's become overpopulated. And that's only a personal opinion. It's become overpopulated in terms of theatre and performance. So there's a lot of theatres down here and more growing theatre companies down here. So that in itself is a danger, because then what you're doing is you're losing the uniqueness, you're losing the equality. So I had to do several things. I had to either make the readings work or one of my other things work. And one question I kept being asking is, why don't you just focus on one thing during this time? The same answer was, I get bored. I get bored with focusing on the same one thing. I have to be varied. If you don't like it, anyway. But it was that comment that got me thinking, and it's really taken, although I've been self-employed since 2005, it has really and truly taken this year, probably the last year, I would say, to really start making a little bit more in terms of working with yourself and actually finding a rhythm, so to speak. Now, and I'm not talking about Facebook or YouTube's algorithms, so to speak. What we're talking about is more to do with thinking in terms of making things work for you. So, really and truly, since November last year, I've really been thinking in terms of making everything work. So last year I thought of things as a creative umbrella. I thought of things as more like a big eclectic sort of thing. But as it developed and I found that I was working more and more with several things in the industry, I found it was an interesting one. I found that there was more in terms of expanding horizons. And why not build on what you have to make your brand? So, this is what a creative entrepreneur entails. Being a creative entrepreneur entails a lot of hard graft, a lot of work, and a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of getting yourself out there, including on social media, hence experimenting with something like live and also recorded videos. Okay, so here's a few tips that I can give you guys to start with in order to start on your journey, especially if you want to go down this road and you feel you can't specialize in one area because you love everything, okay? First and foremost, know your why. The why is why you do it, why you choose to do all these things. Now, when you're considering your why, look at how they link up with each other. Now, you'd think because of the things that I do, they are not related, but actually they are. Because the one thing that links them all together, whether on an emotional level, a spiritual level, a physical level, or even a creative level, or a beautified level, the job of a creative entrepreneur, in my case, it may be different for somebody else, but in my case, it's to make people feel good from the inside and out. When you get that why, you can link everything together. Tip number 2. Work within your strengths and your limits. So, there's a reason why I say this. I usually say lots of things for reasons, although it may be interpreted as well, let's just say people may take what I say with a pinch of salt. But, the fact is, when you're working in this industry, you are working very strongly with the fact that you are working within the capacity of actually encouraging people to use your services. So naturally, you want to get out there as much as possible. But you have to know what you can and can't do. By knowing this, you then stop yourself falling into the trap of what I would call a con artist. Now, the con artist, what do I mean by this? Somebody who basically takes advantage of somebody. If they say, oh, I can tell your future, I can help you achieve this, I can help you achieve that, but actually they don't live up to the expectation, then what happens is you feel let down and you feel like you're going to be pushed to the side. Hence, a lot of us creative entrepreneurs have to be sure that we know what we can and can't do, even in terms of availability. The more you put out there, the more people will respect you. And if you know you can't do something, don't take that booking. Yeah? Don't take that booking, because what happens is, say for instance, if I wasn't a medium, say, and I was to take a reading that a client that wanted a mediumship reading, and I couldn't give that service, I'd have to say, for moral purposes, no, I can't actually take that, because that's not what I specialise in. I can, however, recommend so and so. Okay? So, as a side point, know who else you can refer to as well. And finally, tip number 3. Tip number 3 is the most important one. Be honest. Be honest with yourself as well as others. That, in a way, is a natural follow-on from what I've just said. But if you are not fully living your purpose, if you are not fully breathing and living, then there's something wrong. Okay? So, those are 3 tips that I can give you to begin with. Okay? Now, all I could say is, everybody, thank you very much for joining in today and for supporting this broadcast. It is my very first live broadcast on YouTube, so naturally just getting used to the way of things, so I appreciate you putting up with me here. My name's been Sascha Cooper, the creative entrepreneur from Brighton, with the purpose of making others feel good from the inside and out, okay? So, if you want to know more about me, I do have a Facebook page, which is Sascha Cooper Creative Entrepreneur. You can find it. I'll put all the details down in the description once I've finished this video, okay? So you can find it for yourselves. And also, if you want to take advantage of what I can offer, for the whole of November, I am running 15-minute free tasters of consultation sessions to see if my services are right for you before you book. Okay, so for further details, follow the link down in the description box. In the meantime, also, I should point out before I sign off, because I want to start using YouTube more often, I'm trying to work out a good algorithm in the sense of when to go live. So obviously, as this is an impromptu one, I'm not expecting many people to come on here, but once I've found out a really good spot to do a regular slot from, you'll be seeing a lot more of me. And on this channel, I'll not only be sharing a little bit of insight and wisdom from the spirit guides, I'm also going to be sharing with you a few business tips and also show you some makeup demonstrations as well, because I know quite a lot of you like makeup out there. So more on that to come in more detail. So in the meantime, everybody, thank you again. Be bold, be brave, be beautiful, and more importantly, release that inner sass. Take care, everybody, and thank you once again for supporting the very first live broadcast. Because you could be anywhere in the world, but you took the time to switch off and come over and support. So, whether on the live or on the replay, I much appreciate you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.